Go.
Streaming from South Africa to the world. This is the Stonks Go Moon podcast. What just happened? We break it down so you don't have to.
Welcome everyone to the Stonks Go Moon podcast. My guest today, Chris Clay, VP and Game Director at Immutable. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much for having me.
Nailed it. Not every time I get it on the first try. If there's one Web3 game that I absolutely love and adore, it's Unchained. I've been on record saying this. I absolutely love it. I'm so thankful to be able to chat to you today about Guardians and Unchained. But let's start with storytelling and I want to find out what your philosophy is on storytelling in gaming and kind of what is it that you want players to experience when playing a game like Unchained?
Yeah, so storytelling is complex. And there's multiple different layers to it. You know, at your most basic storytelling, you've got, a book or a movie, and you're playing through a single storyline, a narrative. And I think a lot of people make a mistaken assumption that is storytelling in of itself. And I think it's an important part of it. I don't want to, belittle it, but like storytelling in games has multiple different levels. And there is that base storytelling element of you, the developer, telling a story that you want people to listen to. There's another element of what is it in the content that you're producing that tells a story as well. And it's not overt, it's not always like a narrative that somebody's speaking, but the art on the cards tells a story. Like the way the different pieces of art combine in a card set, like these little side pieces, we introduce hints all over the place in cards about future sets and past sets, and
little Easter eggs.
There's little Easter eggs
crumbs.
where there's nothing verbal about it, but
yeah,
you've got these little breadcrumbs of for people who care, they can look in and see this and be like, wait a second, that's the sword from this card over here. Are these things connected? And sometimes it's overt, you see reoccurring characters, and sometimes it's more hidden.
Yes.
But the art can tell a story. Having my foundation in MMORPGs, the world building, how you lay out the world, where the roads are, where the encounters are, you can craft complex stories, again, without any direct words, but just in a narrative of the story that people see. And I think in a card game like Gods Unchained, there is an internal narrative to each game about what's going on. As you're playing out your cards, as your opponent is, there's this emergent story that you get just from the gameplay itself. It's not just in card games, in all sorts of games. It's that emergent narrative from my past. One of my big influences on that form of narrative and storytelling was Civilization. Civilization is a story of your civilization, and each time it's different. So crafting a game that has the elements and possibility space for the storyline to be rebuilt and for new narratives to emerge every time you play it is one of the things I think is really important to having people stay around for a long time, because it keeps things fresh.
It's quite cool to hear how you were influenced by Civilizations, because I think every one of us played Civilizations growing up.
It's a good game.
Yeah, it's a good game. I watched an old YouTube video of yours. I think it was 4 years ago.
It would have been 5 years ago at this point.
4 or 5. Yeah, let's. Where you talked about the transition to blockchain gaming and how it's a pivotal moment for Gods Unchained. How has your approach to game development changed from that video, right? From how you felt there at standing at the precipice and to where you are now?
I mean, it has definitely evolved. A lot of early hypotheses about where blockchain gaming would really thrive, I think have been proven both true and untrue.
Okay.
I think a lot of the initial focus, particularly with GU, was on ownership of the cards, and since that was going to be super important to gamers, and to some, I think it was. To others, the gameplay was far more important.
Yeah.
but it wasn't the differentiator that I think in some of those early like videos and just days, it was like,
Yes,
oh my
yes.
gosh, if we make a good card game with this ability to, you know, buy, sell, trade the cards in a digital space, um,
That's like
you
the
know, it will
alpha and
really
the
change.
omega, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be everything, and it turned out it
Well,
wasn't. Yeah,
it's also why you see so many card games
yeah,
in the blockchain space. Like it's just a very much a natural fit, and it works in a lot of ways. And you know, a lot of that early product market fit, like I think, was real, and it's where you see, you know, some of the power of the blockchain for
okay.
me coming from modding early on in my career is what people can build on top. And you saw that, you know,
Mm,
and you still see that with Gods Unchained, with GU Decks, and just how important that is to the ecosystem, you know, built by an external team. Token Trove, one of the biggest marketplaces, you know, again,
yeah,
built by that team at GU Decks. You know, GUstakes.gg in terms of setting up competitive pro league as well as another competitive platform.
hmm,
Like it, it started to get like an ecosystem of other products built up around it, which is again one of the promises of blockchain.
yeah.
Um, but I think one of the things I underestimated was just the friction that blockchain would add to the space and like the level of fear of doing some of those initial blockchain transactions. Um,
From the retail side, from the consumer side.
yeah.
Okay.
And like even for me, like when I bought
Mm,
my first, you know, ETH
yes.
on like it's scary.
Yeah.
Like, and then when you send it from that to a wallet and you've never done it before, like the first time it's scary. And then when
Because
you have to
there
bring it
is,
up to a layer
yeah,
two,
there is
like
that
it's a very
delay, right? Because it's showing here, and then I do something, and then I have to wait. So what's happening? What's going on? Why is it not here? Because you so used
yeah.
to, and now you have to sort of wait. So okay, that's interesting. You're saying okay, right? There was
Yeah,
sort of
like
you underestimated that. Yeah.
I think what that did, like in again, like the transition from GU to Guild of Guardians, like
Mm,
if there was
mm,
one major shift in my philosophy around blockchain, it was looking at blockchain a lot like cloud computing.
okay.
Where like back in the day, everyone's talking like, is your business in the cloud? Now we're all in the cloud and nobody talks about it because it just does what we want it to do.
Except Kamala
And with
Harris. Sorry.
yeah. um, but with Guild of Guardians, you know, a
Mm,
lot of the focus on the product was how do we get the blockchain to do what the player needs it to do without getting in the way?
yeah.
And that was one of the biggest, I think, innovations with, yeah, with Guild in that you sign in at login, and then it kind of just does what you want as you're performing the actions in the game. You're still on the ZK EVM side. There's a lot
Mm,
of scary transactions when you're still doing the blockchain stuff on the web, but in the game itself, it's so smooth
yeah.
and really focusing on that player experience of, you know, having it almost be invisible and just
Yeah.
solving problems for them. Like
Yes.
I've been really focusing a lot more on that
Okay.
in the blockchain space.
Okay, great. Talking about Guild, you guys released some new characters. For those that might not be familiar with what you guys just released, would you take us through the characters and also speak maybe about why you or the philosophy around keeping a game like Guild fresh? Because something, I mean, we live in this era where something gets played and then boom, it's gone. It's like it had its moment. I mean, we even saw with like Web2 games from Blizzard, people like Blizzard, what they thought was this major release with this expansion pack, and it's like 2 or 3 months that everyone's like, oh, we're done with this. We don't want this
Yeah,
anymore.
I mean, attention is really hard in any product these days. And it was why, you know, with Guild of Guardians, we wanted it to
Yeah.
be, you know, like a companion app. It's something that, you know, I play on the train when I'm going into the office and on my way home. Um, and like it's easier to fit a game like that into your life than, you know, like a Diablo 4, where like, yeah,
Yeah.
you consume it and you kind of move on because it just demands so much
And
attention and time.
very fast.
And a lot of it is, you know, rolling back to that possibility space of things
Okay.
where you want to be giving people the opportunity to have new narratives, and it's hard.
Mm.
But like in Guild of Guardians, some of how we do that is, refreshing the challenges. So like in the endless mode, it's changing the rules, changing the curses, um, changing the enemy setup, and that makes the experience a little bit different, every week as players go through. It is the special events where, again, with the special events, like the most recent one, just changing up the rules, having it be different so that you're making new choices. New choices leads to new stories. New stories people give people something to engage with their friends and other people in the community about, keeps it fresh. And then, yeah, some of it is just new content too. So you add a new Guardian to the mix, like JD. JD very much designed to fill a niche in the ecosystem that kind of is largely filled by Tavros, one of the founder Guardians right now. And then I would say, Flix as an epic Guardian. But having a new legendary healer to like be in the mix, like it was one of the big calls that we heard from the community.
I was about to ask you, how do you come up with those changes? Is it internal? We're sitting around a desk and saying, "Ooh, we think people will like this," or is it community based? Whereas
it's a very long process because it takes a lot of time to develop the Guardians, develop the skills, develop the art.
Can you take me through that process a little bit? Because I think it's quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, at the top end, there is sort of like just the world building. So, with Guild of Guardians, the world of Eldarim, we've got just a whole bunch of rules for how it works with the different domains, and from that, we're often pitching, Guardian design. So like our creative designers will come up with a brief of like, hey, we think, a Terror Guardian, in JD's case, like a centaur deer style Guardian, and you sort of put together a mood page with a lot of different images of like what this Guardian might look like. From that, you go into sort of concepting with it of like how that will actually come to be. That's where we're working really closely with our partner Mindloader on like, hey, with this general character, like what kind of skills would we get out of this? What class would they be? What role would they play? And sometimes you start and you've got an image in your head of what they're going to be, and then as more information comes out, because you're also looking at data, like what are people playing, where are people getting stuck, what are the monsters that are defeating certain groups of players, what would solve some of those problems, and then like you get to the point also too, like I do monthly town halls with the community, like what are people saying in chat, what are they asking for, just Discord, every day, what are people chatting about, what are the problems they're having, and from all of that, you ideally build new characters that on some level people find visually appealing and narratively they fall in love with, and also things that you add to people's gameplay experience. And
in some characters,
it's more art than science there
yes.
though. Like there's definitely the numbers. Yeah, a lot of it is just intuition.
And I was saying in a lot of characters, people see themselves and they can resonate with that.
Well, yeah, you sort of have characters you identify with.
Yes.
And then you've got like the waifus and husbandos. You have characters you want to fall in love with, and everything in between. Yeah.
So, how long does that process take? From, let's say, we want to introduce new characters, what's the time frame? Plus minus.
A lot of the characters right now, like you're looking at 6 to 9 months.
It's a lot of thought and effort.
I mean, there's a lot of different people that go into it, from again like concepting to modeling, texturing, animation, VFX, the designers for the skills, the engineers coding new attributes and abilities, sound effects, and then like all the writing, because like it's also built in Shanghai and Chinese, and then we've got to translate it across, and then after all of that, you have the marketing aspect of it. You've got to have all the launch trailers. Like it really is an intricate process to get from point A to point B. Like just doing, if you're really rushing, and you really have everyone all hands on deck, you might be able to get it out in like 2 or 3 months. But because we're trying to be ahead of things, if you're not rushing, you make less mistakes. Like it takes a long time. Sometimes over a
And
year in some cases.
wow, yeah, and the community doesn't like it when things are rushed because they can feel it. They can feel
Mm.
that sort of. They feel. Um, I think it's like we're not mad, we're just disappointed.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the challenges with um, blockchain in general, in
Mm.
that we're still early.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I know blockchain's been around a while, but like when it
But it's
comes to
still
games,
early.
like there really aren't that many that have launched. There's a lot that have sold NFTs,
Yeah, it's not the
but
same.
not too many that have actually made it work. And sometimes it feels rushed when it's just new, when
Yeah.
you're trying to solve a problem for the first time. And across both Gods Unchained and Guild of Guardians, like we solved so many problems for the first time. And it often will work, but often doesn't work well. And then it's going back and iterating on those and improving it and streamlining it. And we're all humans, we make mistakes. And like
Absolutely.
when those mistakes happens, it's actually one of the things that's fascinating. Gamers in general, Web 2,
Yeah.
don't
Doesn't
like
matter.
rushed things. They don't like things like it's not something like gamers like. They don't like bugs. Like
No.
why do you have bugs? Why don't you
And
just
ads.
have no bugs?
And ads. Ads
Yes,
on
and ads.
mobile games. They hate it.
Yeah. Yeah, no ads on
No
GOG.
ads. No, I know. I'm just saying.
But it is sort of just part and parcel to the process, particularly when you're working with technologies, for the first time.
Yeah.
And both StarkX, ZK and Immutable ZKVM, it's often we're kind of at the forefront, so we're often using these technologies for the first time. And sometimes it works really well. Like in a lot of cases with Guild of Guardians, it's worked really well.
Yeah.
And in some cases, things go kind of catastrophically wrong, and then you just try to do your best to make it right.
Awesome. Clay, 2 questions before I let you go. The one is your characters are very IPable. Any sort of interest in maybe branching out into other things with those characters?
Yeah, I mean, with Domains of Eldraine, there really is like just a world of possibilities. One of the things one of the characters I fell in love with, even from the brief, is Admiral Mayday, GU character, and like making a pirate game, based around that in the world. Like we've really done a great job in building out the world so that it could go in so many different places. And some of like really good world building and like getting all of those documents together is you can go work with another team, and it's like as long as you build within these rules, it's in the world of Eldraine, and like absolutely potential there. Like so much potential there.
That's basically something that you are working on. It's a constant work in progress. Okay,
Yep.
Cool. Makes sense. And the last one is we talked about briefly about blockchain being new and blockchain gaming being new. What do you think are some of the key factors that will drive mainstream adoption going forward, being this early?
Yeah, I would go back to the cloud example of having lived through that transition. Like it scared a lot of people. Like I don't like the idea of it not being on my hard drive. Like this is like what happens to it. Like I do think it's going to be in some cases kind of obfuscating the technology so that people just don't have to worry about it. Like even like if you just think about mobile phones, there's so much complex stuff happening when you look at your phone and double click and you do a purchase. That's kind of like the standard I've been trying to like hold internally, like when we work on things. Like a little bit of a cliche of me like grabbing my phone, being like, I just bought something in Web 2. Why is it so hard in Web 3? How do we get to this, guys?
Basically, take out the crypto out of Web 3. That's basically what, like, it needs to be. But for the UI, maybe even UX, I always feel the end customer, he doesn't need to know the process behind it. It just needs to be seamless for him.
Well, and it's one of those things with crypto, with whoever they are, they can dive in as much as they want. The problem right now, it's not a choice. With crypto and blockchain right now, you really have to dive in. Like Guild of Guardians is an experiment in like giving people early access to a lot of power there without forcing them to dive in the initial experience. But I would also like, I'm getting up there in years. I remember when you had to use a credit card, you put it in and it's like chunk, it goes on, you know, the paper that like takes an imprint of it. And like,
oh
yeah,
gee,
like,
you're taking my back now.
like think about how hard it was to use credit cards back in the
Embossing,
day.
yeah.
Damn. To, you know, being able to just insert it, and then like now, like in Australia, the credit card is in my phone, and like when I tap onto the subway, I don't even have to press any buttons. I just put it there, and it knows that it's gonna. And that process takes time, and in some cases, like from the early credit cards to where we're at today, it's 30 years of evolution.
Yeah.
And blockchain's early in that. Like it's gotten a lot better in the last decade, definitely better in the last 5 years that I've been on it.
Yeah.
But like we need to be further in that process to where it's just, it's just easy.
Yeah.
And we're not there yet, all the way.
And if Elon has his way, we'll all have chips in our brains and we'll just be thinking about X and making payments. Like
actually, it might be you get the little like the little head bob. I made a purchase.
In the neck, like a little bobblehead. In the next 30 years, maybe. Let's.
Yeah.
Clay, thank you.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about head chips.
No, let's not. Let's not go there. Let's say it was just a passing comment. I don't know. Thank you so much for joining me today. If the listeners want to go and connect with you and find out more about the world of Immutable, where can they do that?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Chris Clay Plays, and also on Twitter, Guild of Guardians and Gods Unchained.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
And we'll put all the links in the comments. To our listeners, peace, love, and prosperity. Catch you on the next one. Cheers.
In the